What's up, guys? What's up? What's up? How's everybody doing? We got a special day today. Special, special day today. It is going to be amazing. Amazing, amazing. What's up? What's up? What's going on? What's going on? I got a good friend that I'm going to be chatting with today. Sadvi, she's amazing, amazing. Let me see if I can bring her in. How's everybody's days going? It's not taking your request. Okay, let me see. Let me see. Cool. I think it to you. Nice.
Nice. That was
Very cool.
beautiful.
Very
Mm.
cool. Very cool. Very cool.
Very cool. So wonderful to be with
Wow.
you. Wow.
Likewise.
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 Guys, we have an
Guys, we have an
exciting
exciting
day.
day.
First, I want to do a
First, I
sound
want to
check.
do a
Are you
sound
guys
check. Are you guys
hearing the sound
hearing the
okay?
sound okay?
For me, it's a bit of an echo. I'm not
I
sure.
I just got my computer off. Is it better now?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Well, guys, oh my goodness. Today is such an amazing day. We have the launch of one of my good friends, Sadvi, her book. I don't know if you can see it. Hollywood to the Himalayas. What a title. What a title. Um, I just want to say that this is such an amazing book. It tells the truth of the spiritual journey, and it doesn't make it, something out of reach of the normal person, the average person, which I think spirituality can often come across as doing, this priesthood of people. But you, Sazi, I mean, you're from California, and your spiritual journey took you to the Himalayas, to Rishikesh, which was where we met
Yes.
first. So, tell everybody who's not familiar with you, tell everybody just who you are, and just a little bit about the book.
Oh, well, it's so beautiful to be with you. I still remember when we met on the banks of Ganga,
Mm,
and that beautiful coming together in that sacred space in the lap of the Himalayas. And I know we spoke at that time about how touched you were coming
mm,
into that land, being in that sacred space. It's a place, for those of you not familiar with India, that is the land where for thousands and thousands of years, saints and sages and rishis came. It's an official holy city in India. And it's where I've lived for the last 25 years. I came as a 25-year-old Stanford graduate. I was in the midst of getting my PhD in psychology. And from the outside looking in, I had everything that we're told you need to
mm,
be happy. I came from a world of opportunity, a world of privilege, a world of all of the best of everything that you could have.
mm,
And yet, I really suffered inside. I suffered from trauma I had experienced. I suffered from pain. I suffered from anger. I suffered from feeling like I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't pure enough, that there was
mm,
something inherently wrong with me. And so on the outside, everything was just perfect. And
mm,
yet on the inside, I was really struggling. And I was doing what so many of us do when we struggle, which is we turn to something to ease the pain, or we think to ease the pain, whether it's alcohol or drugs or food or sex or Facebook or whatever it may be, our soft or hard addictive tendencies. We turn to them as what I've now realized is actually a spiritual quest and a spiritual yearning to not be in the pain of this moment. And yet, of course, as we know, all it does is make matters worse. It's not an efficient or effective way. But that's how I was living. And I get to India at 25 with a backpack. It was a country I knew nothing about. I agreed to go just because I was a strict vegetarian already and knew that I could eat very well in India. And my husband was on a spiritual quest. And so I agreed to go to India with him on a break from my PhD program. But you know, this is where that power of the divine voice comes in, because, and the divine calling, because we may not know where we're going. And I certainly had no idea what was going to happen to me. And yet that presence of grace was so powerful that it literally swept me off my feet, handed me this extraordinary experience of truth and awakening and understanding myself and the universe and my role in the universe. And through that, it brought me so much healing and so much transformation, and really taught me how to let go of all of that I was identifying as, all of the pain, all of the struggle, all of the addiction, and realize, hey, wait, you're not that. You're not that. You are the divine spirit, the soul. And that was 25 years ago. And I've been there since. And right there where you and I danced and sang and did the arti was where I had that extraordinary experience 25 years ago.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. So I got a question, because when you say your recognition that you are soul spirit, go into a little bit more about that process of seeing, of discovering that truth, because I think of a lot of people, they go around life thinking, addicted to thinking, and attached to the belief that they are their thoughts. But the recognition that you are, in fact, something beyond the thoughts is liberating. So I'd love for you to share a little bit more about that, and maybe there's some guidance that you can provide some people watching this on how to discover that truthfully for themselves and not just intellectually.
Beautiful. Yeah, you're so right. It really is how most of us move through the world. We have a thought of anger, and we say, oh, I am angry. Or we have a thought of yearning for something that someone else has, and we say, I am jealous. And we give ourselves these identifications. Or we say, I am a victim of this, a survivor of that. I am. And you're right, that isn't us. For me, the experience came as such a blessing. Standing there on the banks of Ganga, I had this experience of knowing, of feeling with every bit of my being that knows how to experience. My eyes, my ears, my mind, of knowing that I was one with all of creation. That up until that moment, I had thought, this is me. Like this is me. I am this, well, at that time, 25-year-old, now 50-year-old American woman, this height, this weight, this size, this career, this history, this race, this religion, this struggles.
Mm.
And in that moment, I was one with all. I was one with the sky and the river. I was one with the children playing in the river, one with the families bathing in the river, one with the trees on the banks of the river. And it was just the most extraordinary awareness of, this is not where I end. This is all me.
Mm.
And as far as a practice, because of course the thing with spiritual experiences is they come, they're ecstatic, they blow our minds, explode our hearts, and then something kicks in and we kind of feel that we're not back exactly where we were before, because of course we've been changed, but we're not quite able to grasp that moment again. And that's where the practices of getting back to that become so beautiful. And there's a meditation practice called Niti Niti. And it's a practice where, and it doesn't require, of course, any religion, any language, any culture, nothing like that. It's just a truth of who we are as soul, as consciousness. And the practice is one where you sit and you say, I am not my clothes. So I would say, I am not my sari. And okay, my mind is like, yeah, I believe that. And then I am not my skin under the sari. I'm not the blood running through the skin. I'm not the organs being nourished by the blood. And we go through these very, very physical things that, of course, our mind is like, yeah, I get it, I'm with you. And then we say, well, I'm also not the white and gray matter of my brain, right? I'm not the nucleus of my neurons. I'm not the axons. I'm not the myelin sheath covering the axons, right? I mean, that's obvious. I'm not the chemicals in the vesicles at the end of the axons of my neurons. I'm not the electrical axon potential of potassium and calcium running in and out of that neuron, making it fire, obviously. Well, if I'm not those, and that is how we have a thought, literally a thought is an electrical potential that runs down the axon, it runs to the end of the neuron, it shoots the chemicals out of the vesicles into the synapse, the next neuron picks it up. We call that, an emotion, a feeling, a thought, a memory. But if I'm not the electrical signals and I'm not the chemicals, I'm not the thoughts. And another way of knowing that is, in the space between my thoughts, I don't cease to exist. If I were my thoughts, I would cease to exist in between my thoughts. So you're not that. And also because our thoughts keep changing, right? I mean, one minute we're angry, the next minute we're happy. Someone is mean to us, we're annoyed. Someone's nice to us, we feel really good. Someone cuts us off in traffic, we're frustrated. Someone brings us flowers, we're super happy. So the emotions keep changing, the thoughts keep changing. We also know that any drugs, alcohol, legal or illegal, whatever it may be, it impacts and changes how we think, right? I mean, how many people have woken up one morning and said, oh my God, I can't believe I did that last night. That wasn't me. Like, well, then who was that, right? Who was that? The only thing that was different was these chemicals that were changing how my brain operated. So if I'm not the change in chemicals in my brain, who am I? And you keep that practice of neti neti is just,
Mm,
it literally, the Sanskrit word literally means not this, not this. And one by one, I am not this.
mm,
And we clear, I'm not the thoughts. I'm not the emotions. And
mm,
again, we know we're not our emotions because there's so much scientific research showing that we can generate emotions in people.
mm,
We can change people's emotions with, a metal prod in the brain, with a
mm,
chemical, with a pill,
mm.
with an electrical impulse. With little things, we can change people's emotions.
Yep.
So clearly, I'm not the emotions. And you just one by one remove what you're not. And then you reach this state. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion.
Mm,
And eventually you get to this state that the Buddhists refer to as nothingness and the Hindus refer to as everythingness, but they're talking about the same thing, which is that space that exists when you've
mm,
removed everything we're not.
mm, mm. It's so simple, right? But it's, the mind can always come in. The gravitational pull of the mind and ego is can be powerful for some. And that's where the practice, I think, comes in, the constant remembrance, and so talk about that. I think, what the blueprint that you just outlined, this deductive process, this neti neti, not this, that by itself can be enough for some people. Um, but there's other practices like, yoga, for instance. Talk about the benefits of things like yoga and practices like that in reaching these places of self-discovery.
Mm, what a beautiful, beautiful question. Yes, of course. There's so many ways. Look,
Mm,
it's our natural state, right? And so the universe has actually given us so many different ways to enter. There isn't only one way. It's like I think
mm,
about our flowing Ganga River, right? You can go in down on our steps, walk down the marble steps. You can
mhm,
go upriver to the beach, walk in from the sandy beach. You can go further upriver, jump
mm,
into the river off a rock. It doesn't matter.
mm,
What matters is that you get in. How you
mm,
get in is totally irrelevant. And in the same way, we've been given so many different ways to get in to this river of truth. And that practice of neti neti is one.
mm,
Yoga, as you said, is absolutely one. And you know what's interesting and beautiful is that the word yoga literally means union. Most
mhm,
of us think that yoga means like I can stand on my head or I can become a pretzel or, look how long I can hold up my body on my arms or look, I can take my leg and put it over my head.
mm,
But the Sanskrit word yoga
mm,
means union. And it is a union
mm,
of myself
mm,
with all, with the divine, with the creator and the creation.
mm,
And
mm,
there's so many different types of yoga, paths
mm,
of yoga. And of course,
mm,
the practice of physical exercises is wonderful. It's good for the body. The body is a temple. We need the body. It's our medium to
mm,
experience consciousness. But the exercises are not the yoga.
mm,
The exercises are a part,
mm,
but the ultimate experience of that union
mm,
can be gotten absolutely in doing the asanas, the exercises, as long as you do them with the intention, not, oh God, give me, a 20-inch or 30-inch or whatever you're looking for waist, or, oh God, give me these bodily proportions, or, oh God, make my biceps stronger, or, oh
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
God, make my thighs not wobble when I walk.
Mm,
As long as you don't go into it with that, if you go
mm,
into it with, oh God, through this posture, let me experience the flow of the universe. When we breathe, we speak about pran. Well,
mm,
pran, right? Pranayam, the
mm,
breathing exercises.
mm,
It's not just, an exotic form of hyperventilation or something. It's the life force. Prana is our
mm.
life force.
Yep.
And it feeds our energetic body. We speak about the subtle body. We're
Mm,
not just our bones and our muscles and our blood. We have an energetic
mm,
body. And the pran
mm,
is in that energetic body that, of course, interacts with the physical body. It infuses the physical body with life. But so
mm,
as you do the asanas, if you're doing yoga postures, as you breathe, do it with that intention of, oh God, as I take in this sacred life force, this energy that has not been changed since the time of this Big Bang, right? We know scientifically that all the energy that we have in the world today
mm,
is the same as from then, which means
mm,
that all of the sages and the saints and the prophets, whether we say Jesus Christ or the Buddha
mm,
or Muhammad or Moses or Krishna, whoever we say,
mm,
any enlightened being, any tree that's ever lived, the first, alligator, all of that energy
mm,
that every one of these beings
mm,
has taken in and let out is that same energy that we are using today.
mm,
So we say, oh God, as I bring in this sacred pran into my muscles to hold me while I stand on my head or in my trikonasana,
mm,
let me realize that I am one
mm,
with that energy that is eternal, with that
mm,
energy that infuses all, that I am one with that. But
mm,
also, of course, it's important when you speak about yoga to realize not just the physical exercises. There's three main streams of yoga that are given to us in the Bhagavad Gita, which is like the handbook of
mhm,
a
mhm,
spiritual life. And by the way, it's not just, I know you know this, but your community may not know. It isn't just for Indians or Hindus. This is a book that everyone ranging from Aldous Huxley to so many great philosophers have said,
mm,
like, this is my handbook for life.
yep.
And in that handbook, we're given three ways of experiencing union.
Mm,
One, Gyan Yoga, the yoga of wisdom. And that's this practice of
mm,
who am I? Like, I'm not this body that keeps changing. Every time I lose and gain weight, who I
mm,
am doesn't change.
mm,
Every time my thoughts change, I don't change. Who am I?
mm,
We have the practice of Bhakti Yoga, which is love, that beautiful, beautiful, juicy love,
mm,
loving God, but loving God through each other. So
mm,
if you love anyone and you really love them, not just their bodies, but you really love their essence, their soul,
mm,
their spirit,
mm.
what you're loving is God, right? If you just loved their bodies, then every time their body changed, then like you'd love them more after their shower than before their shower. You would love them, right?
That's
more,
good.
more when they were
Yeah.
made up and looked good, but we don't.
Mm,
We love our loved ones just as much when they roll out of bed first thing in the morning as we do after they've done their whole thing.
mhm,
We love them as their bodies change throughout our lives and our relationships.
mm,
It's not their bodies we love. We may also appreciate the body, of course, but
mm,
we love
mm,
their spirit, their
mm,
essence.
Mm-hmm.
that unchanging core of them.
Mm.
And that's God.
Mm.
Doesn't matter what you call it. Use any name, any form, spirit, soul,
Mm.
divinity, consciousness,
Mm.
truth.
Mm.
So we love. And then the third way of yoga is karma yoga, action.
Mm.
Whatever we do, let it be an action rooted in the awareness of oneness.
Mm.
So whether it's how I smile, how I move through the world, who I help across the street, how I speak to the person who pumps my gas or pours my coffee or
Mm.
works for me in any way, how I interact with my neighbors,
Mm.
what I eat, what I wear, how I shop, how am I using the energy I've been given, the money I've been given, the opportunity to choose I've been given? How am I using that
Mm.
in a way that's in alignment with oneness, right? If yoga is oneness and union, then karma yoga is every action
Mm.
that is in alignment with union.
Mm.
And it doesn't, most people think about karma yoga as I volunteer planting trees every Saturday morning or one Saturday morning a month. And that's great. Of course, we all should do that as much as we can. We should volunteer as much as we can.
Mm.
But on a spiritual path, everything you do is yoga.
Mm.
What you eat, what you buy, what you wear. Is it organic? Is it fair trade? Is it vegetarian? Is it in alignment with live simply so that others may simply live? Or is it
Mm.
something that, was created based on women and children working in sweatshops in some third world country? Is it something that was created based on deforesting the Amazon and taking away
Mm.
the land of the indigenous people? So
Mm.
it's consciousness in action. And as we
Mm.
as we become more conscious every minute,
Mm.
from the time we get up to the time we go to sleep,
Mm.
that becomes our spirituality in action.
Mm. 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 I love that. In action. I got this massive action in the background. I always tell people, you got to be before you can do and do before you can have. It starts with being. It's not always about going out and doing the action, but first the action comes spontaneously out of the beingness. Um, I want to reply to some comments in the chat. So the book that Safi was speaking about was the Bhagavad Gita, and her book is this one right here, Hollywood to the Himalayas. Guys, go check this one out. It's an extraordinary book. I had the honor of writing the foreword to it, and it just talks about her journey, as you can see, the journey of transformation. Safi, I wanna ask you, you know, I think maybe some people in the chat, and I know I have in my early years. I fell into the mode of postponement. I was always like,
Yes.
the spiritual stuff is cool. It's okay. Let me get my money right first. Let me get my job, my career, my family, and then God, I'll go to you. So tell us about just how important what we're talking about
Mm.
really is.
Ah, so beautiful. First of all, I just want to say what a beautiful model you are of living this, because who you are in the world, what you're doing in the world, what you've achieved in the world, and how you are sharing your life lessons with this extraordinary community is just, it's such a gift and such a blessing. And I know that everybody who's watching this is so, so grateful that you are not just doing the success thing the way that you do the success thing in such a beautiful way, but that you're taking them all along with you. That you're literally learning these lessons for this entire community and sharing the journey, sharing the lessons, sharing what works with them. So just real such love and gratitude for you in this world and all of the light and the wisdom that you are bringing. And you know, listening to you talk about this idea of postponement is so funny, because since I've known you, something that has touched me so deeply about you has been your absolute unrelenting commitment to now. It's now. With you, it's every minute, every moment. I mean, you and I have known each other many years. We've spent many, 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 many hours together. And yet, if I look back on every single conversation we've had, it's always just going deeper spiritually. Like, you are not a man who wastes time. You are not a man who wastes a moment of your life. And I've seen you with so many other people as well. It's just always, how can I go deeper, learn more, expand more? So it's funny to me to even hear you say about postponing, but it is something that so many of us do. And the dilemma, of course, with it is that it's based on this really false but really pervasive idea that the money and the career and all of these things are actually what I need to be happy. When you say, first, let me get my money set, let me get my career set, then I'll go spiritually, the underlying assumption there is that it is the money and it is the career that's going to make me happy. And the spiritual stuff is kind of something I should be doing, like maybe, you know, to make sure that my next life is good, but not because it actually has any direct relevance to this life. And what we know is that actually being spiritual is that which brings us the joy, the meaning, the peace that we are searching for in the money, in the career, in the fame, in the acclaim, in all of the different ways that we are looking for things. That which we're looking for is spiritually. It reminds me of my favorite story of the woman who's in the road in the night, and she's, you know, on her hands and knees, and this wise man walks by, a Baba walks by, and he says, "Mother, let me help you. What have you lost?" And she says, "Oh, I've lost my key." He says, "Okay." So he gets down on his hands and knees and helps her look. And after some time, he doesn't find it. And he's like, "Mother, where is your key? Like, where did you lose it?" And she says, "Oh, I lost it in the house." And he says, "Well, then why in the world are you looking in the road for it?" And she says, "Well, because see, my house is dark and outside there's this really bright street light. So I thought, let me come out here and look where it's bright." And of course he says, "Go back inside." And I love the story because we laugh. We're like, well, who in the world would look for something outside, regardless of how many street lights there may be, when they know that it's inside? And yet that's actually what we do. We know, because we've read it or we've heard it or we've intuited it, that our real meaning and happiness and purpose and peace is going to come from inside. And yet we're like, but let me just make a lot of money first, and let me just go shopping first, and you know, let me win the lottery first. And we just keep focusing outside. And I think, well, you would never go to a shoe store and ask them for a carton of milk. They'd be like, well, we don't sell milk here.
No.
And yet we're always looking for something that doesn't exist. And it causes such stress in our lives. You know, I'm sure you must have experienced this as you keep thinking that you're going to get other things set and then you're going to go spiritually. There's actually a lot of stress because there's no amount of money, there's no amount of success that actually is enough to give you that inner sense of, yes, now I'm done. And so we just keep running around. I always say it's like we're trying to squeeze orange juice out of a cow, right? So you're squeezing the cow's udders, waiting for orange juice to come out. And it doesn't matter how beautiful or wonderful the cow is, it's never going to give you orange juice. And in the same way, we're trying to squeeze our careers, our financial success, our physical beauty, our social status, we're trying to squeeze that for joy and meaning and purpose and peace.
Wow.
And it's just not there.
So
we must stop postponing. Yes. So we must stop postponing. And this is where now is the answer, right? My guru Puja Swamiji always says, doesn't matter how long you've been asleep. Whenever you wake up, it's morning.
I like that. I like that. I like that. I like that. Yeah, it's you know, it's an interesting and pervasive and I think our world really it supports these notions of chasing the material, you know, in order to be happy. And you know, in school we learned about this concept of relative deprivation, where you know you say you make $1 million, well you make it, and then you look at the guy who makes 5 million and you feel bad, and then you make 5 million, and then you look at the guy who makes 10 million, you don't have enough, so you make 10 million, and it keeps going. This comparing mind is the issue. One analogy I love is the one of, you know, somebody gets a new object, for instance, the newest iPhone, right? And you know, they had an old phone for a long time, and you know, they craved this iPhone so much, and you know, they tossed and turned in their bed. They had all of these feelings, and then one day they finally got it. You know, they got it. It's got all the new functions, the apps on it, and they feel so happy. And the question is, did the phone make them happy, or was it the release of the craving for the phone that made them happy? Right?
Exactly.
It's the release, this place of not craving, of non-desire. I think the Zen monks, they say, what I desire is non-desire. And it's that place of fulfillment, of contentment, not wanting what you don't have, you know, but really loving what you do. This is true happiness. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Savi. Was there, let me ask you this. So with your book coming out, um, is there anything in the book that kind of is salient in your mind that you feel like maybe a story that you want to share from the book, you know, that you feel like people could be well received right now?
Sure. There's so many stories, because of course all of this that we've been speaking about is what I've learned. I didn't know any of this 25 years ago. You got a massively beautiful sort of head start push on this path by the universe. I mean, it's so beautiful to see how you went this way from such a young age. And I went to India not knowing any of this. And so I've learned all of this that we've been talking about along the way, not in a classroom, but in life, either through just a direct experience of it or because my guru said something about it and gave me a teaching about it. And so there's so many stories that are coming to mind, but I think the one that I would share, because we're at a time right now where spirituality really means, you said it earlier and I want to just go back to it. It's knowing who we are and then we know what to do. You were speaking about action as I had been talking about karma yoga, and you were emphasizing the importance of not just acting, but first knowing who we are and then acting from that space. And that has been a really core teaching, because right now, what our world needs is people who are so deeply connected spiritually that it's not about my peace, my bliss, and just let the rest of the world, dissolve. Let the species go extinct. Let the earth, burn up. Let children die of hunger. Let women die in childbirth. Hey, I'm over here in my bliss. That is not, I don't know if that ever was what spirituality could mean, but it certainly is not what spirituality means today. And the spirituality that we really need today is people who are anchored and grounded and connected in the truth of who they are, so that, as St. Francis of Assisi said so beautifully, we can be instruments of God's mercy, instruments of grace, right? I love that he uses the word instrument, because when you think of an instrument or a tool, you don't think about like how beautiful it is. You don't think about, well, is that a gold hammer you got there or an iron hammer you got there? All you care about is, can that hammer in a nail?
Yeah.
If you've got a gold hammer and every time you try to hit a nail, the hammer squishes, well, it's not going to be very useful. And what we need today are people who are connected deeply to that presence of the divine within themselves in whatever way that means to them, so that that flows through them, and then we all can be those instruments of mercy, of grace, bringing light, bringing healing, right? That whole beautiful prayer of St. Francis of Assisi, let me bring light to the darkness, right? Let me bring hope and healing. And the story that I would share, and because the tradition that I have been in, the tradition of my guru, who is just such an embodiment of yoga in action. I mean, he lives as one with all of creation. And so a story is that in 2012, he had just turned 60, and I had been there for the last, more than 15 years. I'd been there since 1996, and so 16, 17 years-ish. And I had been just serving. It was schools, and it was women's programs, and it was tsunami relief, and it was ashrams and medical clinics in Montserover, and it was just so much. And then it was the massive project of the Encyclopedia of Hinduism. And then it was this massive event that we threw for his 60th birthday. And then it was the programming. So many different programs and projects were coming up at that time. And in November, I had this experience of burnout. And it was, it was interesting that it took me that long to get there. And I credit the spiritual practice, I credit grace, I credit blessings. But basically, for 16, 17 years, I hadn't taken an hour off, let alone a day off. And I hadn't wanted to either. It had always felt like just this flow of the universe through me.
Wow.
But in that November, I was just burned out and I didn't want to do anything. And I said to him, I said, I need a vacation. And it was funny because he's always talked about how Ganga flows and the sun shines with no discrimination and no hesitation and no expectation and no vacation. So I knew that vacation was like a 4-letter word, but it was my truth. And so I said, I need a vacation program. And then we had to be in LA for a program. And he has these devotees who live in Hawaii. And I said, can we go and spend these 3 days that we've got between the program in Japan and the program in LA? Hawaii comes on the way. Can we just spend these 3 days in Hawaii? And he said, yes. And which was just amazing. But in any case, so we get there. And the next morning, I wake up really early. And I then turn over and go right back to sleep. Like, I'm on vacation. And by the time I finally roll out of bed, it's, mid-morning, and he's sitting outside on their porch overlooking the Pacific Ocean. He's had breakfast, and he's writing in this little notepad. And I say, what are you doing? And he says, I'm planning where we're going to put all the toilets in the upcoming Kumbh Mela. So the Kumbh Mela is like the world's biggest gathering of people. Hundreds of millions. The last one had 150 million people who come to have a bath in that sacred waters of the Ganga. So he says, I'm planning for where we're going to put all the toilets because January of 2013 was a major Kumbh Mela. And I'm like, you're planning toilets? We're on vacation. You're overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Why are you planning toilets? Why are you working? And he looks at me and he says, this is the problem. For you, this is work. And for me, this is life. And later that day, we watched this video. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the story of Saint Damien, who was, oh my God, a priest who had gone to Hawaii. And I forget, of course, all the details at the moment. But they used to have a leper colony on the island of Molokai in Hawaii. And Father Damien was sent there to minister to this colony of lepers at a time when there was no cure. And he went there and he changed the whole colony. I mean, he built so many different infrastructures and brought a sense of community and brought joy and brought faith and reconnected these people to God. And of course he contracted leprosy, and of course he died at the end, but he knew he was going to.
No.
And we watched this movie that I had picked up, this DVD in the gift store in the airport. And I had this experience. And I share this particular story because since I was raised in the Jewish tradition and then had this incredible ecstatic experience in the Hindu tradition, to share A, about service, but B, about then that presence of that same divine through all of the teachers of all the religions. So Father Damien was this just embodiment of service, embodiment of love of God that just had him until the last moment of his life ministering with such love and such joy and transforming this leper colony for hundreds and hundreds, there may have been thousands even, of lepers. And in that moment, I felt Father Damien's spirit in me. And it was this experience of, oh yeah, This isn't work.
Mm.
This isn't a to-do list. This is, we serve as we breathe. Not as something to tick off a to-do list, not because we've got a sticky note on our computer that reminds us to do random acts of kindness, or not because we think we're going to get good karmic fruit for it. But we serve as we breathe because it is who we are. And that for me has been one of the most powerful lessons. I mean, just the idea of like being in Hawaii in this beautiful home overlooking the beach, and having my guru make these lists of where toilets are going to go. And he was so excited. I mean, he was ecstatic that like, when he said, before breakfast, I got all the ones listed for where we're going to do them in the Himalayas, and now I'm doing the Kumbh Mela. And that just joy. The same way that if I tripped and I fell and my right leg were injured and my left leg picked up the extra weight, which we call limping, the left leg would never say, I'm tired of doing this. Why doesn't the right leg ever do anything for me? Like, I want a break. The left leg understands we're all one. And that's the way that he served. It's the way that Father Damien served. And in that day, on what I thought was a vacation, I was given this extraordinary teaching and experience of that presence of Father Damien in me, just breathing through me in service. And yeah, and it stayed with me so powerfully since then.
Wow. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I love the story, and the stories that you've told. It's, I always say this story is it's the language of the mind. It's the way the mind works, and if we want to learn something, then we should learn it through a story. And this is your story right here, from Hollywood to the Himalayas, guys. Check this book out. It's on Amazon right now. Savi, thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything else you want to share? Where can people follow you? Where can people learn more? Anything you want to say?
Well, first, I just want to say how much I love you,
I love you too.
and what an incredible joy it's been to just be on this path together with you. And I'm so grateful that the divine universe has brought us together in the way that we both accepted that beautiful invitation of the universe, and how that brought us together. And in terms of, and thank you also just for the exquisite foreword that you wrote. For anyone just tuning in, my beloved brother, Prince EA, wrote the foreword of my book. And so it's not just my book, it's our book. And that's why today, on the launch of the book, I was just so excited to launch it together with you. And for people who want to order the book, yes, it's on Amazon. Just go search for Hollywood to the Himalayas and you'll find it. I'll ask our beautiful Seva team to put it there also in the comments on, I don't think Instagram will let you do that, but on Facebook and YouTube to put it there. And people can find out more also just at hollywoodtothehimalayas.com. So there's a whole website, just hollywoodtothehimalayas.com.
Great.
And you can actually download some free chapters and learn more. You can see the dates of where we'll be on tour, coming to a lot of cities in America, or doing things online, live. And if you still want more, then you can come to my website at sadviji.org. It's just sadhviji.org, and it's all there. And lastly, just an invitation to you all. I realize travel is restricted at the moment, but when travel opens, when it's possible, if it's possible, for you to actually come to Rishikesh, because the book has two arcs. One arc is the physical journey I took, literally from Hollywood to the Himalayas via Stanford. But that's the physical arc I took. And the physical arc that you take may be very, very different. But the other arc, the arc of the changing of how we think, of literally going from living in pieces to living in peace, that arc is something that's possible for everyone.
Everybody.
And I pray that all of you, when you read the book, that yes, you'll read the physical arc, you'll read the fascinating and exciting and adventurous journey, you'll read all of that. You'll read the healing and transformation that I had. And I really hope that along with that, you'll get that other arc of how you, regardless of where you are, can also have that healing and that transformation by changing how you think from what we could call kind of a Hollywood way of thinking, that you are your body and you are your career and you are your bank account and you are your race and religion and color and waist size, to what we could call a Himalayan way of thinking, of you are spirit and consciousness and love and truth. So I really look forward to hearing all of your thoughts, all of your comments. I wrote the book for you all so that you could experience that healing and transformation that I experienced, even without that arc. But lastly, the Ganga is very powerful. The Himalayas are very powerful. And I hope also that when things open, that you all will take the beautiful opportunity and come and visit us at Parmarth Niketan. That's parmarth.org in Rishikesh, and be there. And who knows, maybe we can have a beautiful trip where Prince EA comes and your community comes and we all meditate and do yoga, the fullness of yoga together. And celebrate and meditate, sing and dance and serve together on the banks of Mother Ganga in that lap of the Himalayas.
Sounds like a plan.
And I love you so much again.
Love you too, Savi. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for your comments, your questions. Make sure to follow Savi on her channels. Pick up the book. And peace and blessings to you all. Thank you for sharing this time, this space with us. We hope that it was nutritious. We hope that it was nutritious for you. So much love to you all.